Roger is not in.
He's still waiting to sign back in, I guess. Well, he'll be in a moment, I'm sure. And as he is, just kind of let him know to speak up, please. Jeff Dunn is also here, or Jeff Madden is also here. I mean, the Jeffs are, you guys are killing me here. So we'll simply finish once Roger gets here, but we can begin by turning your computer, please, Stacy, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Much better now. Nice bright picture this time. Please, Chief, lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roger's not here yet, so let's do minutes. Jeff, please, motion for the minutes, Jeff.
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Jeffrey Dunn, a second by Ed Moan. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Ed Moan, aye.
Jeff Dunn, aye.
And Roger's still not here, but I trust he'll be back shortly.
Does he know we were starting at 4:45?
I believe he did, but you know what? I will let him know right now. He might be trying to get back in.
Anyone gonna try to call him?
I just shot him a text, but I'm gonna call him next. Hey, Roger, we're back on, buddy. Sign in, please. Yeah, sign in, please. No, 4:45, my friend. We're trying to. That's okay. We'll wait for you. We've already done the minutes, so we'll move right along once you get back in, okay? No, I want you in. I want you in for our next discussion. Thank you. All right, with everyone's permission, while we're waiting for Roger, as I would like him to be part and parcel to some of this discussion and approval process as well. We can, if with everyone's permission, if you would, we'll jump forward to new business, and we'll go to item C, discussion regarding potential bike trail on WPCA. It's really not on WPCA property, but it does pass by at any rate. We've discussed this a little bit already at our last meeting. I believe there's about 100 yards of property that would be, that is town of Thomaston property and goes through or by an area with the WPCA pump station. And there's a group of citizens in our town who would like to turn that into a bike trail that is a mountain bike trail, not motorized vehicles. One of the things I thought what we should do is ask planning and zoning where they stood on that matter. Stacy,
Yeah, they did discuss it. Marty Egan attended the meeting and we went over everything there, and they agreed it did not rise to the level of needing that special 824 unless something larger was planned in the future, like a larger parking area for it, or you were going to actually in some way pave a parking, a trail through the area. They were all amenable to it. They all thought that the idea actually was great, and that we look through the plan of conservation and development, and there is in fact something in there specifying that where possible, it's ideal to link recreational and outdoor properties in this sort of a manner. So they had no issues with it at all. The only directive to Marty was to stop in and chat with me regarding the signage. They were obviously wanted to make sure the signage was appropriate to lead people in the right direction, so there wasn't any parking where it shouldn't be, etc.
Okay, so one of my concerns, and it continues to be, is that I believe the neighborhood, or at least those most immediately in the area, should be notified as such and asked for their opinion. The reason for that, more than anything else, is not that I think the bike trail itself would be any imposition. Potentially on one house it could be, but in the neighborhood, my concern is more, do cars come, park in the area, unload their bikes, that kind of thing. So one of the things I had suggested is that the group petition people in the area, so to speak, or not literally petition, but at any rate, contact and get some feedback. That has not happened. So one of the, again, before I'm personally comfortable, and I certainly want to hear from you guys on it. Is Roger on yet? I think he is, or still.
He
It
is.
looks like he's down with a cell phone anyways. Maybe you should just open him up, Stacy.
Roger, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, very clearly. Thank you.
Okay.
Good. So one of the things I think that the neighborhood should be made aware of it. So what it seems to be is we probably need to take the bull by the horns on this one in the selectmen's office. Stacy, I would ask you to send me a list of names, addresses in the area. I don't believe Marty's on, albeit Marty, are you on?
Or maybe.
Marty Egan?
Marty, if you're on the phone, if you're on one of the phone lines, could you? Marty?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
So good, Marty. Thank you for coming. We're talking about that trail a little bit, the bike trail.
Yeah, I heard all the conversation.
Oh, okay, good. So what I'm going to what I would like to do, so that the neighborhood, the most immediate neighbors are on board, is I would like to get together with at least one individual from that group who would be willing to kind of stand up and take charge a little bit. And the Board of Selectmen fine with we'll send out the notices, but what I'd like to do is gather there at some point with the immediate neighbors once again, to have a little discussion about it so that they're all on board and they know what is being proposed. Even albeit it's not required by planning and zoning, I think it's just, it would play well for everybody in the neighborhood to know what is being discussed. So that if they do end up with some parked cars and so on, they understand why that is. So that's where I want to go next. I'm going to ask you, Marty, to kind of contact whoever is there. Stacy is going to provide me with the list. When we can get the, when I talk with them about a meet, they're kind of like a site walk, so to speak. Okay.
Yep.
We can gather there. And so everyone that has been at least notified can come if they choose to. If they don't, then it's an implicit, we're good, we don't care. But I want to give them
Yep.
an opportunity to hear. So that's going to be what I want to see next. And
Now,
then,
who are you thinking about, Ed, for the neighborhood and in terms of the people? I mean, is it the entire Highwood development, or are you talking about just people in proximity to that roadway?
it's more the people in the proximity to that area, just as planning and zoning would do essentially. How many, roughly, Stacy, shoot from the hip, how many people are we talking about here? Or how many households?
If you were doing this via planning and zoning, then everybody abutting and directly across the street from the subject property would get notified. And there are, since it's a large property, there are a lot of along the road right there. So I would say it's probably going to be 20, 25 houses.
Okay, okay. So, if that's what it is, that's what it is,
And Ed, what if the consensus of these people come back and they basically say, we're not interested in having that? What would the position be at that point? I mean, is this a democratic type thing, or as the board, your board, would look at it differently and say, we're going to make a decision based on what we think? Or is it going to be if the majority of the people feel like it's bad for their neighborhood, are we going in that direction?
I think that's a discussion for the entire board, Marty, not me independently, but certainly I'm looking to have an understanding with the neighborhood. Otherwise, what we're doing is we're creating an issue for the police department as well. When people are going to start screaming out or parking in front of my house, and I don't want to
Yep.
have impact on PD. So I would have to say, if we're asking people their opinion, we have to certainly give it good consideration. Anybody else? Roger,
I
Jeff
just-
Dunn, any comment?
I agree
Roger,
with you saying,
Roger, can I ask you to, since you're on in two locations, I believe that's where the feedback's coming from? So
Shut
if you,
down one. Is he still with us?
I see one of the locations still with us. I don't see the phone.
Like he's
Okay.
muted.
There he is. Roger's unmuted now. So go ahead, Roger, please.
no, I have to agree with you, Ed. It would be sad if all the neighbors were objected to this up at Highwood.
It would be sad, but I think we have to hear them. Would you
Oh,
agree?
yeah, we have to.
I agree. Okay. Jeff Dunn, any comment?
So Ed, could I just clarify with you?
Let Jeff speak and
Go
then.
ahead. Go ahead. Let Jeff go first. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would agree. I want to hear from the immediate neighbors as zoning typically would. I don't think it's all that much different than how zoning would approach it, so.
Okay, very good. Now, Marty, please.
I was just going to say, so the concept, Ed, is that Stacy will provide you with the list of the neighbors, and the Board of Selectmen will develop the letter and mail it to those people. And then in that letter, they'll indicate some type of site meeting with those neighbors to meet with us at some point and have a discussion sort of at the premises as to what's proposed, and they can come or they don't have to come.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly
Okay,
correct.
very good.
We're gonna let them know what's gonna go on. Again, you know, if you want to take the lead on it and contact, because obviously we want the individuals who are proposing this, or at least one, to be a spokesman for the group present at that
Yes.
time, if not all of them.
Yes,
Okay?
I will. I'm sure they would love to do that. And two of the three happen to live in that neighborhood. There's a good chance they know a large portion of the people that are up there.
Okay, okay, that's great. Just again, you know, when we're potentially impacting a neighborhood with some traffic, I mean, hopefully, look, everybody abides by, hey, there's a parking lot in such and such a place, please park there and ride your bicycle down. I mean, what the heck, they're red bicycles anyways. But as we all know, just because that's what you're suggesting, it's not necessarily going to happen. You know, we learn that every day, unfortunately.
All right.
I don't want to create any nightmares in the neighborhood, nor a nightmare for the police to have to go up there and say, hey, come on, you know, you're not supposed to park here. Or then we have to go put up no parking signs. You know, it can mushroom. So
Hey, Marty, I have a question for you.
Yep.
How many vehicles do you think could be up there at any one time?
Well,
in
the
our
three
parking area.
gentlemen that are trying to organize this, they're the only ones at this point that are even aware that this is a possibility. They explained to me, and I'm not a mountain biker, I'm not into that type of thing, but they believe that it'll be a very small group of people in Thomaston. In fact, those two wouldn't even take their car up there. They ride right out of their house and do it. They believe there'll be no more than 5 or 10 people probably that would do this. Ed and I have talked a little bit about that. That always sounds nice, but when people find out about it, it's very likely there could be more than that. But their feeling is it's generally a small group. The majority of people would park on the Northfield side anyway, but they're looking for an access point for people from Thomaston to be able to reach the dam property without having to go all the way around to Northfield. But they feel it'll be a fairly small group. The majority of the year, the parking lot is empty, a lot of it. All the varsity sports have been moved to Nystrom's now, as we know. So we're down to like little kids soccer up there and some middle school soccer during the week, and they're done by 5:30, the middle school soccer. But you'll go through these expanses of the year like summertime, when you think this would be a big portion of the riding season. There's not a thing up there in June, July, August. And then obviously you'll have the same thing in the fall. The soccer will end at the end of October and November and December, and until the snow falls, there's no activity up at these places at all. So yes, there could be some conflicts during soccer season and the Little League season, but those seasons are not quite as long as people believe them to be. You go up there this time of year, you won't see a soul parked up there for 2 months.
Okay.
Thank you, Marty.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anybody else regarding this issue?
Well, I'll just say, since the presentation at our last meeting, I did talk to a few people in the neighborhood, and it does sound like a lot of people use these trails now anyway, and it seems to be a locally for the neighborhood and whatnot more than anything else. So I think they're
I would probably agree with that, Jeff. And when I went up and took the pictures for you guys, you could actually see it was a pretty beaten path through the grassway there already. And I figured it was either deer or it was people. But from what I gathered, there's a lot of people seem to be accessing that property already. It may not be on bikes, but I think they are walking down through there and doing exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on item C, new business?
No.
Okay, very good. So Stacy will get me a list. You and I will coordinate somewhat, Marty, with the group.
Yep.
To put together a date, time, place, date, and then we'll mail out those letters and go from there. Okay.
Yeah, we could even do a Saturday morning or something if it works better for the neighbors. That's fine with me.
Yeah, that's what
What is the timeline moving forward? Are we looking to do this? Decide on this in 2 weeks, a month?
From my
I
perspective,
can tell you that the guys in the other group, all the trails are cleared on the Northfield side. I have the okay from the Army Corps of Engineers in writing, and the insurance company has provided us what would be a sample of their insurance, but won't provide an actual written copy to the town of Thomaston until we provide them a letter saying that we've approved it. So the only thing really at this point stopping it from happening is just the part in Thomaston. All of the rest of it is complete.
So if we could get in touch with these households in a fairly short order, we could decide in 2 to 4 weeks.
I would say that's absolutely correct, Jeff. We could probably decide at our next meeting if we can get everything in place.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right.
Yep.
Marty, I would also suggest regarding the insurance, speak to Debbie as well, so she can provide with you, if you haven't gotten it already, a sample of the type of the insurance coverage that we would require, so that you can get that off to them as well, so that when it gets to that point, we are on the same page and it's not it doesn't become a condition that we have to wait upon. Okay.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, stick around for a moment. At this point, I'd like to get back to the agenda as originally written. So let's go back to old business, item A, regarding the Nystrom's Park Beach area. We left that as an open item on our agendas for further discussion as things went forward. I went by there today, and saw a whole bunch of people down there, some on the beach, some in the water, so it's signage, fence and everything. It's already becoming an issue. Jeff did have an officer go by and tell him, he and I talked about it a little bit, had an officer go by and tell them they had to leave. But, so we're already running into a bit of an issue there. We still have an issue, the problem that Black Rock State Park is not opening. At least that was the last I received when I spoke to DEEP about it last week. And they indicated they had no plans initially, at least at that point, when I spoke to them, of opening. We do have violators, and I think we're going to continue to have violators. There's no question about that. I just want to throw out there consideration for some other course of action other than it just being a violating a concern or a matter that's going to continue to cause violations and probably issues. Marty, we have discussed briefly, you, I, and Jeff in my office at one point in time about potentially providing some sort of authoritative coverage. The chief hasn't yet broached that with the union, but will if it's something that we're going to seriously consider. Is it something you would be willing to seriously consider?
Yes, it would. I would say this, the day that we put the fence up, and I was happy to send you guys those pictures and say that it had been done, there were literally a dozen people in the water that day in the afternoon. So it didn't make it more than 4 hours and it was already disregarded. So obviously you, Jeff, and I had that discussion, and it could be a possibility. The one thing that I haven't been able to do yet is to get the girls who would have collected the money to start working there yet. My budget only has enough money to sustain them working up there for the last 2 weeks in June. And then, of course, and then the new budget would start for July and August. Now, that's a very normal course of things because generally the kids are in school till about June 15th. So we don't budget prior to that. So they haven't had an opportunity to sit there yet. Thursday, they're supposed to start. So I think that's sort of our second line of defense. The fence obviously isn't working by itself. Now we'll post somebody there and let's see if that's a deterrent or not. Jeff was good enough to at least say he would have the police officers get out of the car and their patrols and go down. And I think that also will be a deterrent. I think once people believe that they are going to get thrown out, I think some of them may take it more seriously. And we do have a lot of repetitious people there. They may not be from Thomaston, but I do recognize a lot of the faces. And I think once they're removed from it, I think they're going to say they're actually kind of serious about this. And then I think ultimately when that doesn't work, if this is going to be a long-term thing, then yeah, I agree. We have to get some kind of funding for somebody with some authority to be up there, you know, even if it's a liaison of the police department and not necessarily a policeman. I think we may have to go that route if we're going to be really serious about keeping people out of the water. I don't
Well,
think that you guys passed that so it was to be looked at casually. It was supposed to be something actually, enforceable.
Right, and that's my point. If it's gonna be a policy that's just flagrantly disregarded, we need to begin to re-examine it. But it seems to me that it sounds reasonable that we pause on this at least for our next meeting, with some feedback from the kids once you get them up there. Some feedback from Chief Madden as to what his officers may need to do, or how frequent, or if upon every visit they make, they find more violators that they have to go down and remove. I think that kind of feedback would be important as to how we look at this going forward. One of the things is, and I've heard this from a couple of residents already, is, well, why are we being different? Why is not our swimming area open? Some towns are opening theirs. No, I mean, it's really it's apples and oranges. It really is, because some of the other towns have vastly different situations than our own. They have a parking lot that's specific to the swim area. They have larger beach and swim areas than we do. We don't have either one of those things, and it makes it difficult for us. But just the same, continue to look at it. We'll be looking for some feedback from you, Marty, at our next meeting regarding this, and from what you get from the kids, and also from the chief. Okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Gentlemen, Jeff, Roger, do you have anything to add?
Marty, what are the hours that the girls work up there?
Well, normally I'm going to try to extend it because I think we're going to have problems later. But when we were collecting money to use the beach area, they left at 5 o'clock. And that mirrored what the state park had done years past when they were collecting money. So if you came up after 5 o'clock, you could actually go in there for free. And in the morning, they used to come in at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it was very typical to go there at 7:30 in the morning on the weekend and find 30 people up there already.
Okay.
Some would argue it would be good if we kept the gates closed so people couldn't get in, but we would continually get complaints from Thomaston residents. They couldn't get in there to fish. They couldn't get in there with their boats. So that became an issue. So we opened the gates at 6:30 in the morning, but very common to find people in there at 7:30, 8:30. But to answer your question, 9 to 5 o'clock was the hours that they actually collected money, and the lifeguards left at 6. If we do that at this point, they go home at 5 o'clock, it'll just be a free for all. The second they leave, people jump the fence and they'll be in the water at 5. So I'm going to try to extend them into 7 or 8 in the evening and stagger their shifts and see if that will be a deterrent or not.
Okay, so again, we'll look
start
for
earlier in the morning.
feedback.
Marty, would you start earlier in the morning?
I could, as long as I can get them to work the hours. I only have 2 of them, and if they're going to be working 8-hour shifts a day, there's 7 days in a week, they're going to be doing 56 hours each. And my budget really won't support any overtime for sure.
Now, Marty, didn't you have lifeguards and whatnot budgeted for this?
We do.
So is it possible to, use some of those hours, or even some of those people to offer them some hours so that no one's working 56 hours a week?
Maybe one of them I would. The other 2 are very young. They're only 16 years old. I'll agree with you this way, Jeff. Maybe I could find some other people that could do it, utilize that money. I don't think it would be the lifeguards that I have. I do have one kid who's in college from Thomaston. I think he'd be okay at it. The other 2 are just too young, and one's a girl. I got a feeling that they would just run right over them. I'm not sure anyone would listen to them. But yes, there is money there that would have been paid to the lifeguards for the next 2 weeks that will go unused.
And Ed, if you have people from other departments who work within the town, is it possible to have someone cross over into another department to work?
I certainly wouldn't have any issue with it. I guess mostly everyone is in a union in town, so I guess that would be an issue for their personal union, I guess. if I'm understanding you correct.
Yeah, no, that, I'm not really thinking of a union person, but I just don't want to say it out loud. So I don't want to make any assumptions that someone wants to do something, but there
Yeah.
are a few people that might be interested in picking up a few hours and would probably do very well in that role. So.
Yeah, that's why I'm open to anything that will make this work the way that you guys wanted it to work.
Yeah.
But as you know, I'm generally, my staff tends to be kids and younger people, and we're probably asking an awful lot considering the amount of people that show up there on the weekends. So, you know, well, like I said, I'm kind of with that. I'd like to give it let's start on Thursday. Let's do Thursday through Sunday. Let me get some feedback from those 4 days. I'd love Jeff to be able to speak to his officers over that 4 days and say, you know, hey, listen, either went well or you're not going to believe it. Every time I went up there was 30 more people in the water. I spent all day throwing them out. And then maybe by Monday we could have a discussion and see how it went. I'll send you guys an email and say, this is up from my end. This is what happened. If Jeff maybe can do the same when he compiles some information, I think it'll be enough of a sample to come up with a game plan of direction from there. Because I will tell you this, if it goes bad this weekend, it's only going to get worse because these situations get worse the hotter it gets up there. We're only doing 70s now. This week's going to be low 80s. We start getting those 90, 95 degree days, it'll be absolutely pandemonium up there. It is normally. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
So let's
Hey, Marty,
just play the devil's
Leo's,
advocate for a second. And we say, you know, it doesn't work. We're going to close the park down. You can't go in there anymore. So we don't have kids there or anyone else monitoring it. We lock that parking lot down there. What's keeping people from parking up above and walking down anyway? And how do we stop that from happening?
Yeah, nothing at all. There would be nothing to stop them from doing that. We've had days where, like, the police may not get around to opening the bottom gate early in the morning, and those people will park in the middle lot, which we leave open all the time for the people who walk on the track. They'll park there, and they'll be down at the beach at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. They have no problem hoofing it with their coolers and grills and anything else. So, yeah, without an actual human being there, I don't see any way that you would stop it. If you closed all 3 gates, I believe they'd be parked on the road.
And do we have any capacity numbers for people there not in the water? In other words, you know, with picnic areas and everything, are we saying we're full at some point?
Well, we've never had to do that. I could say that. Because generally when Black Rock State Park is open and the fact that they don't charge any money down there tends to pick up the bulk of the people. So our beach usually is okay. But, you know, obviously this year is different. With Black Rock being closed, I see a natural segue to say, let's go up the hill and let's see if that one's open. And obviously, like Ed said, we don't have the room, the space up there for that kind of crowd. Our beach area was kind of intended for a small town beach. There's not a lot of area up there. And as we talked, Glenn did some drainage work up there, and he fenced off some of the picnic area already for the grass to grow. So it's extremely tight this year, more than ever.
Marty, any of these young girls receive any verbal abuse?
I would say so. The lifeguards tend to take it worse because they're the ones trying to enforce some rules. They tend to get it worse, but the girls will get a lot of abuse when they're asked people to pay. You know, there's always 20 questions of why do you have to do this, and you know, excuses and stories why they don't have to pay, and they do go through a hard time. They're both good. They're a little bit older, and they've been doing it a couple of years. They're pretty used to what goes on. But absolutely, I do get a lot of stories of things that are said to them that I don't think should be happening.
But they still come back to next year to work.
Well, they do. Some won't, but these two, they have the personality for it. I guess that's the most simple way. They're not the kind of people that are going to break down and start crying over it. They're pretty tough. So it's been okay. But, you know, if it was the wrong personality, I could see people actually probably just quitting. It's probably not worth the money they make.
Hey,
Okay,
Marty,
so if I may, gentlemen, we can move along from this. I think we'll take this up again at our next meeting. We'll be able to evaluate based on what Marty can tell us from the kids that are working up there, and from what the chief can tell us about what the officers may or may not have to do. And also the chief is going to discuss with union possibility of some sort of coverage other than police, candidly. Police would be well out of the budget that can be affordable. But that's their call, candidly. They have the ability and the right under their contract to perform this kind of service. It's going to be more, we're going to ask them to work with the town to make things possible. So that's, we'll see where that all goes, and we'll know
One more
more on our
question,
next
Ed.
meeting. Pardon me,
if I could ask one more question
please.
To Marty or anyone who has an answer. You know, we kind of said, well, we're going to stay closed so long as Black Rock Park stays closed. Is there some indication that they may open this summer, and are we looking at potentially opening for swimming at some point this summer?
I'd have to, from my opinion only at this point, Jeff, the information I received when I talked to somebody in DEP at the state of Connecticut late last week is they had no future plans for opening up inland swimming areas. They were basically saying seacoast is where we're going, oceans where we're going, inland areas we are not. So, and then to the second part of your question, from my perspective, we'll have to see how this all plays out. If, you know, we may want to say, okay, if we have enforcement up there and somebody who can really do that, provide the enforcement, we may want to open up in a very limited capacity with determining how many people we can properly allow on that beach area and provide some sort of decent social distancing. I say we may. I'm not saying we will. I'm saying we may.
Okay.
I just think it's a consideration we have to look at going forward. That's all.
And I think maybe the thing that might have to happen if we reach that point is we can control the amount of people there with the gates. So it may have to be where somebody's posted at the gate. We count the number of vehicles or people in those vehicles. We predetermine a number. And at that point, we close the gate and we put a sign up front that says beach is closed. And if people want to wait on the street, I guess that's their prerogative until a car or two comes out. But that may have to be the only way that, you know, we might be able to control it if we ever reach the point of opening it.
Yeah, with some modifications to that, candidly, but we'll talk about all that should we need to cross that bridge. Okay.
Yep.
So thank you for that discussion. Again, we'll take this up. It'll remain under old business as an open item going forward, and we'll have discussion about it next time around. Just one other thing before we leave, and this isn't on the agenda at all, gentlemen, but I think it's a no-brainer. It's an easy one. I got a phone call from a resident the other day saying, playgrounds are opening up around the state and in other towns. Why not us as well? What about the kids? And it appears that the state is permitting it, and many other towns are. So tomorrow, and in fact, I spoke with Torrington Area Health District, Rob Rubo, Health Director. He indicated he didn't think it a totally bad idea, and he says it might be a good idea to go along with this with the second phase opening, which actually begins tomorrow. So if there's no objection, and we've never really made a motion on this one way or the other, if there's no objection, I would suggest to Marty to remove the fencing tomorrow from the playgrounds at Reeves and at Nystrom's. Anyone?
Roger has no objection.
So are they doing any recommendations for disinfecting or maintaining equipment or anything?
Well, that's why I'm not suggesting the school. As you all know, there's a great playground facility at Black Rock, but that one also is receiving some funding from us in this current budget to make some extensive repairs that are regard to safety there and so on. So while again, that's not technically under our auspices, I'm not going to recommend to the Board of Education and Francine that they open that one until said time is all that work is performed.
But the state is not recommending anything as far as spraying or disinfecting or doing any other precautions for these playscapes?
They haven't specifically said so, no. Nor has Torrington Area Health District in my discussion with them.
So if we decide to open, is there any liability for the town?
I don't know that there is or there isn't, to be very candid with you, Jeff. I think it might be in our best interest simply to post signage once again, saying, please based on COVID, please, use at your own risk, in short, and then let people make their own decisions.
I hate to sound like it, but I might want to run that by Mike Ryback before you actually take the fence down.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can certainly contact Mike, see what his thoughts are on it. Let me candidly, I don't know that there's ever any absolute where you can waive your liability, so to speak, on anything. I've heard about this a number of times in my life where you get people to sign a waiver, but they can always come back at you for it. The state or individuals or various different organizations have been trying to get a liability waiver out of the governor on various different things, and he's reluctant to put it out there. Okay, and grant that kind of general liability regarding the COVID piece, obviously. But again, I'm feeling some responsibility, concerning our own town when many other towns are opening up their playgrounds and saying, well, here we go. The kids do need a place to play. And it's with playgrounds with small children, parents are going to make that decision. It's not the kids that are going to just go there. We're not talking about the basketball courts at this point. We're talking about small playgrounds with small children. So. But I'll run it by
you, put the proper signage.
Yeah, and I'll run it by Mike Ryback. And so don't take him down yet tomorrow, Marty. But
okay.
With that said, I will investigate it. I will talk to Mike about it. We'll get some signage up there and then we'll take it down. Hopefully, if Mike Ryback agrees with some signs, at least it's a fair warning, so to speak, or a fair advisement, however we want to term that. And then hopefully we get them down by this weekend or open by this weekend. Okay.
Thanks, Ed. This is Stacy. This is actually the resident that called you yesterday about the playgrounds. So totally appreciate the discussion behind it. And to your point, I just want to resonate that to me as a parent, it would be up to the parent to keep my child safe when I'll have hand sanitizer, and other parents that I've spoken to, understand that risk. And it's going to be up to them. I understand your concern and everything behind it, but I think to your point is like the parents are liable for their own children's safety. So I appreciate the topic, and that's why I was on this call today. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments, Stacy. Okay, so that takes care of everything I want to talk about it with all of that. If we may, we can return now to new business. Matt Hopkins is going to speak about the firehouse boiler bid. I believe we have it up on screen. It's going to be a little tough to read. Do we have? That's the letter that you see. Well, the letter that you had previously seen was from come on, help me here. It was from it was from Matt Hopkins, but he indicates in there that the fire commission made a particular recommendation, and I'll allow him to speak to that, but I think that plays in as we're talking about this and the firehouse. Matt, go ahead, please. And Stacy, maybe everybody knows this is a letter from the commission. I'll let Matt speak to that. I think more relevant is the next document, which shows all the bidders and the various different prices. Matt Hopkins, please.
Sure. So we put the boiler out to bid, and as you can see, we received a whole bunch of bids. There was a lot of activity on it, and we had one quote that was, we'll say, very low, and we contacted that vendor and found that they didn't have any applicable experience doing this size of a job. So the bidder was disqualified for lack of experience. So then the next lowest bidder was United Mechanical. So in comparing United's quote to the third lowest bidder, they had included an option for doing a dual boiler system. The advantage to that is in theory, if you only have a slight heating load on the building, you could run the one boiler, and then as the heating demand for the building increases, the second boiler could fire and run. However, this created a couple of issues. One, with the larger boiler, it comes with its own, I'll call it a building management system, for lack of a better term, where it has the ability to send out trouble codes and alarms. So if the boiler was to go down, it could send me a text message or an email that says, hey, pump 2 failed or this happened. When we got down to the smaller boilers, we lost that capability. So we went back to, well, what does one boiler cost? And in comparing the two, United's proposal just shined through, being lesser in cost and equal to in value to its closest competitor. Are there any questions on the proposals?
Gentlemen?
Yeah, so Matt, I didn't get a chance to read the letter that you wrote. I assume it's basically what you were just saying. And there's a big variation of prices, and I'm just wondering, how did we receive these quotes? Did we put out a specifications on what they were bidding on, or was this a design build?
The only specification in the bid was that they bid a boiler of equal capability that was of the condensing gas type. I did not specify as far as brand or anything to that nature.
We had inquired, Jeff, just to get it there, and Matt comment on this too. We had actually inquired about an engineer designing a system so we could do just that, put out something very specific. Here's what we want, which would give us a true apples without any design build, to your point. Do you recall what the number was, just to get that?
Off the top of my head, Ed, no. My recollection is that it was somewhere around half of what I anticipated the total project to cost.
So
What about the
just
warranties, Matt?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Matt, what about the warranties?
The warranties on both the boilers were very similar. I believe they both had a 10-year warranty on the heat exchanger, which is the most expensive part. And I would have to double check, but my recollection is the rest of the boiler had a 3-year limited warranty. But I would have to double check that. But both boilers had basically the same warranty. They're both stainless steel heat exchangers. So by and far, the Lochinvar was probably the most quoted boiler. So as much as we didn't specify the boiler, almost everybody bid the same boiler. So United had a different boiler that met the same specs, that was quite a bit less money.
So I'm noticing, and I can't really see it on the screen right now, but we have two local businesses that are so quoted, and Pelletier looks like it's close to the same amount of money.
I had to disqualify Pelletier because part of their proposal, they were going to sub out part of the job, and subcontracting was not allowed under the terms listed in the RFP.
Okay.
Yeah, valid point, Jeff, because otherwise they would have been the next lowest bid. So with that said, I don't want to speak for Matt, but I'll let him do so after going there. A fire department is certainly or fire commission has recommended we award it to United Mechanical. Matt, speak for yourself.
I had a conversation with Timmy Quinn Sr., and he indicated to me that the fire commission would like to go with the single boiler with the add-on of replacing the pumps while we're there. The bid was to replace the piping from the boiler back to the pumps. But it seems like a wise move to replace the pumps while we're there, as by all accounts, it appears as though they're original to the building, which means we've gotten roughly 40 years of service out of them. So it might just be a good time to replace them while we're here before we have a mechanical breakdown and we have an issue.
Matt, does this price include replacing the pumps?
The price you're seeing on the screen, no. So if
49,772.39, am I correct?
let me read across.
From your letter?
The total for doing the single boiler with replacing both pumps would bring the total cost of the install to $49,772.48.
So that still makes them the lowest bidder?
Yes, when you add in replacing the pumps to everyone else's bid, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Central
And
Mechanical.
nobody else had pumps included within their bids, right?
Some of them did, some of them did not. When the vendors were shown the project, they asked if we were replacing the pumps, and I indicated to them that they could add that as an add-on, but not to include it in their base price.
So the prices that we see do not have them.
Correct. The original bid price that Stacy was showing before does not reflect the cost for installing the pumps on any of the vendors. The next lowest bidder, which was Central Mechanical, with replacing both circulator pumps, that brought their price up to $53,500.
What we're talking about is the circulating pumps. There's 2 circulating pumps down there to for that purpose, to circulate the hot water throughout the system to heat the building. And I know Matt and I talked about that a little bit, and I said it would certainly be foolhardy to put in a brand new boiler and go with pumps that are ancient, for God's sake. They're only going to fail soon thereafter, and we certainly get a better deal installing them now and having a totally new package down there. So I would concur that minimally, I would concur that circulating pumps needed to be replaced at this juncture as well.
Ed, I agree with you on that.
So if there are, well, let me get a motion in a second, and then if there's any further discussion, we'll have it. So I would entertain a motion to award the contract to replace the firehouse boiler to United Mechanical for what I see to be a price of $49,772, and I think 39 cents is what I'm seeing, Matt.
That includes the pumps too, right, Ed?
That includes them.
That
Second,
is correct.
Okay. So you know what? Let's round out so we don't get screwed up for a couple of pennies. Let's make that motion for $49,775. So we don't get messed up for some pennies here and then have to reauthorize something. Agreed?
well, say not to exceed that amount.
Not to exceed. Perfect. 49,775
So
NTE.
moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter? If not, I'll indicate by your vote. Edmond, aye.
Roger, I.
Jeff Dunn, aye.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item. Matt, that's also you?
Yep.
Regarding NAA?
Yep. We're just putting in paperwork similar to what we did last year for the Neighborhood Assistance Act, where we're hoping that some businesses in the community and in the state will give us some money for some energy upgrades, particularly LED lighting, depending on how much funds we receive. My thought was to either work on some outside lighting at Town Hall, finish up the LED upgrades at the library. If we receive a lot of funds, which I'm not expecting, then I would look more at doing either Black Rock or Center School, but we would need significantly more than what we received last year. So my intent is to just keep putting in for it, and whatever I get, I'll put out to bid, and we'll whittle away at these energy upgrades.
This only requires a motion and a second to send this along, and obviously a vote. NAA grants, at least in terms of energy, are something that more are interested in, more those who want to participate, I should say, are interested in, because they would receive 100% recognition for whatever, by the state that is, for whatever they donate in terms of this issue, or this initiative would be a better word.
You say
So-
100%?
They would get 100% of whatever the state approves for tax exempt, a tax reduction. That's how it plays out. Whereas if it was for, let me just say, a painting project, they would not get 100%. They'd get, I believe, 75%, or maybe even less than that now. I don't recall specifically, but it's the energy projects that are being favored. So now, even if someone said, we'll give you 100K, that doesn't necessarily mean the state's going to say 100K either. They look at their big ball of wax, so to speak. At the end of the day, they have a number in their mind that they're going to allow, and then they reduce everything proportionately. So, but whatever we get, we get. And to Matt's point, he'll keep throwing this out there and see what sticks on an annual basis, and nickel away at this whenever possible. So a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved.
Okay, I got a motion by Jeff Dunn. I got a second by Roger. Is there any further discussion before we vote?
I just
Hearing
asked,
none.
do we solicit businesses to donate to this? How do we? get
Yes,
money in?
that's how it's done. It's on a solid solicitation. Generally speaking, Debbie does this for everybody. She mails it out to anybody and everybody that is essentially on our list. But if somebody else can come forward with a new person that may not be on that list, maybe Jeff, you're capable of doing that, then by all means, bring it and we'll send it. But it's on a solicitation basis. We have to solicit.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Edmond, aye.
Roger, I.
Jeff Dunn, aye.
Thank you. That motion moves forward unanimously for the NAA. And thank you, Matt. You can hang around if you want, but I think well, maybe you want to stick around for this next piece. No, I'm just throwing this one out there. With July 1 rolling around, and you know, we need to start thinking about anyways how we might want to reopen the town hall, what precautions we have to take. Now, my biggest concern coming forward with July 1 is taxes. So I've had a conversation with Cassie, okay, our tax collector, Cassie Gorman, just today. And she's taken some proactive moves, if so to speak. When they sent out all the tax bills, she had an insert added in there with a self-addressed stamped envelope, so people can simply put their remittance in it and send it in, hoping that that'll alleviate some of the in-person. Obviously, we still have the ability for them to put it in a box outside in the back. They can call, she'll come out there and conduct business with them if necessary. Thomaston Savings Bank will also accept taxes on our behalf at this juncture, and there's still the online. The online's a little pricey. I don't know that candidly I would do it if it were me, but because of the charge associated with it. But at any rate, there are multiple ways to do it. Speaking with Cassie, we thought it would be worth at least giving it a run to see how it works out initially. And certainly she could meet them. They could come in by appointment as well at this point. But it's just something I want to throw out there for everybody to begin to think about. Should it become a real issue for tax collector downstairs? You know, we may need to do something a little differently. And I've had conversation about that with her as well, but I won't go there at this juncture. Any thoughts from you guys regarding the reopening of the town hall in some capacity?
There was some discussion about would it be possible to use the box office area, the ticket counter. Jeff, that would be more your court than mine, but I know that came up. There was an outside window where people could stay outside and just put things through the ticket window. To me, that would seem like a real easy solution should we need to go down that road.
Problem with that, Matt, is that they need access to their system, which is back in the tax collector's office. So, I mean, every time you take a payment, you'd have to run basically the distance of town hall from one end to the other to get into their computer system so that they could accept the funds and validate it and stamp it and so on and so forth. I don't know. Something to talk about further, you know, perhaps further, but you know, that's the flaw I see it anyway.
So I was going to suggest that anyways. I mean, we do have two windows there. The outside window, you know, might serve well, at least at this time of year. You know, I could clear that out because it serves as both the outside window and as the tech platform for that theater, but we could take that out for the time being so that whole room would be designated for someone working there. I do think, you know, you could wire it fairly simply. I'm assuming whatever computer system they're using is just an Ethernet cable or some sort of internet connection. So that could be done. And you can close the outside window room off from the inside window. So even if the box office were to reopen, you would have some separation if you needed it. So I would just need a little bit of time to get that together. If you decide you want to go that way, but we can certainly help set that up.
Well, certainly a possibility. And again,
Yep.
something I think to discuss with the tax collector as we go forward here and as to what their absolute needs are. They're my primary concern at this point. And with all the other opportunities to pay your taxes, and again, even to the point where you can get an appointment and come in, it may alleviate it. We may not get that large influx, but you know, we'll have to see how it plays a little bit. Cassie indicated to me anyways, in speaking to her today, that she would like to just, at this point, sample and see what may be necessary going forward. But with that said, Jeff, something you to think about as well. Is there any wiring there at all? Where would you have to go to? Could you, where would we have to run wire from to?
It's all wired down to the 911 closet right now. So you can access that room from there. It would take someone who does low voltage stuff maybe to change it from our internet network to yours, but I'm sure that it's not particularly difficult to do. The other thing I'm thinking, just on a general note though, is, and I wasn't really privy to seeing what happened, but I heard what happened when we tried to open. And I think a little bit just like Nystrom's, you have someone at the gate allowing people in. If we're going to open up the town hall, open it up in a manner that someone's actually at the only entrance that's open. Maybe it's down by the box office, and you allow people in. And once you have 5 people in doing business, no more can come in until they're done and they leave and come back. At least that way you can control the flow a little bit. And I know there's a lot of different things happening in the town hall, so that might be difficult, but at least as a slower opening, maybe try to regulate how many people come in at any given time. And also that will make sure that when they do come in, I'm sorry, but a mask is required for you to come into the building.
Well, that's a given. That's a given.
Yeah,
I
but
think the only-
we had that the last time where they weren't wearing them. And if they're coming in and say, oh, yes, okay, who are you going to see? Maybe they're signing in or something like that. And you're saying, a mask is required and please respect the 6-foot distancing in the offices and in corridors. So that way it keeps people a little bit more honest.
Understood. The only problem I see with that, Jeff, is the need for additional personnel to be that gatekeeper.
Might be. And I'm not sure if departments could share that responsibility. Someone spends some time at the desk, a couple hours, per day or week or whatever the case.
Yep.
I mean, you'd have to discuss that with the staff if they were be good or comfortable doing that. But I think that's, you want to control it, at least for the time being, because otherwise, if you just say, okay, suddenly we're open now.
No, I know. It bit me in the backside last time we did that. I get it.
It's just human nature, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Ed,
Yes.
how difficult would it be to make it like passing items for a pass-through, similar to what Jeff has downstairs, doing that in Cassie's office?
Well, she already
Say that
has
again. I'm
that.
sorry.
She has the glass window in front of her with just the
Oh,
opening.
it was only, class was only on one side, the other side was wide open.
We talking about whose office? We talking about Cassie?
Cassie's.
Yeah. So an
It should be
alternate.
difficult to make it more secure. I mean,
An alternate thought I had at any rate was, and I threw this one out there to Cassie as well, is if it became a situation for her, we could open that door on Grove Street. Okay, and cordon it off so that, rope it off basically. The only place they could go would be the tax office. Doesn't mean people won't jump the fence, you know what I mean, so to speak. We're experiencing that kind of thing all the time. And then have the 6 feet. And as long as you don't get a lot of people lining up, it's not going to be a problem. And if it's, warm and so on, you can get out. We could probably easily have, 3 or 4 people in line without any difficulty. Just a thought. But again, then it comes back to, do people abide by, or they simply come in that door and go and jump the rope, so to speak, and go down to Bob Dudak's office or Kathy DuPont's office or anybody else's for that matter. So it always becomes difficult when you want people to abide without having someone to enforce, like we're seeing at Nystrom's.
And so, shortly after taxes, we also have dog licenses that have to be renewed.
Dog licenses are being done right now, Jeff. And Kathy was doing is she's I've said to her, are they calling for appointments? And she said some do. She says some just get to the door and then they call me she's very satisfied to go out and do business with them out in the back. Lobby, corridor, vestibule, call it what we will. She's very comfortable with that, because I even said to her, how's this working for you? She said, no, this is good. Sandy and I are very comfortable doing it in this manner, so.
There's nothing other major needs to come into the town hall at this point?
Well, some folks need to come into the town clerk's office to do some research,
Yeah.
but they can do that on an appointment basis. That, generally speaking, those are attorneys and, and appraisers and so on, who are professionals themselves and are willing to abide by the rules. They call, they get an appointment, they come in, they let them in, they wear a mask, they come in, they do what they need to do. You know what I mean? Those folks are not a problem. They're not gonna,
How about
they're not violating.
how about sewer bills? What's the schedule of those?
Sewer bills, currently, sewer bills aren't due until January, I believe. Am I correct on that? Anybody got that besides me? They're not concurrent with property tax. That much I know. So they may be January. I think they are. I think they're concurrent with motor vehicle. Or excuse me, with the second installment of property tax. They're not in July. And also, one of the things that that has been worked out, at least in part, is the tax collector's office is collecting some WPCA fees, at least when Terry May, WPCA secretary, is not present. So she's authorized to do that.
So, I think either that, maybe opening the one entrance, although, people who have a hard time with stairs or wheelchairs and stuff, they may not be able to access it that way.
Absolutely true.
But maybe even if we did that, rather than having this pile up in the office again, maybe having, if there's two people in the tax office, one person's out in the hallway behind a rope on a table and kind of pre-checking people in to see what they're there for. And then they go in to pay and, kind of process it that way to make sure that you don't have like suddenly 10 people standing in a 10-foot square section.
Yeah. No, that's certainly something that's viable, I think, Jeff. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I just wanted to throw it out for discussion so everybody had an idea. I think that's probably a viable alternative, because you got two people in the tax office, and if you're only seeing one at a time at the window, it's they could take turns, so to speak.
So we did get the thermometers. I saw you distributing them today. Is there any thought to when someone's coming through the door, we check their temperature and say, just ask some of those questions?
Well, certainly if need be, we'll do that. And that was always kind of the policy. Don't come here if you're sick. But once again, it's not a bad idea to say, have you been this, that, go through just a brief list, much like I've given the bus driver, so to speak, on our senior bus. And yeah, give that person at the tax office a thermometer, and that's doable. If we don't have one, we can get one for them. That's doable.
But the thing is, you kind of want to stop that person before they come too far.
Well, you do.
Actually,
you wouldn't even want them coming in the office,
right,
but in the building at all. But we're not. I don't think we want to put anybody outside on the sidewalk. That's asking a little bit much of our employees. No, we'll do what we can within reason, I think is the best we can approach. At this point, like I said, we'll continue as we are, but we'll reevaluate that again in a couple of weeks after Cassie and the tax office gets its first influx, and we'll know better if we have a problem or not. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Just briefly, senior center. The seniors are in talking to me the other day, the senior leadership, I should say. We had a brief meeting, and I only put it out there to let you guys know that we have talked about it. From their perspective, they're not looking to do anything at this point, really. They're not planning, they're not looking to get the center open just now. And they're not even they're not even planning a picnic this year. And many of them are, or at least the group that, there was 3 individuals that I spoke to. They continue to express some concerns based on their age, some of them because of their physical condition. So they're not looking to really do anything at this point. They were more interested in just asking me if we could meet in any way to have a senior council meeting, senior advisory board meeting, excuse me. And based on the fact that there's a total of 5 of us, we could meet if they really wanted to in meeting room 1 and have plenty of social distancing. But they're indicating at this point, they don't even see much reason to do that. I said, well, when need be, contact me. So just threw it out there to let you know, the seniors at this point are basically supporting the concept that they have no activities or any room to meet in. So there's no pushback there at all. But you know, again, as soon as we can, I'd like to make that available to them so that they can get back to some sense of normalcy. You know, hopefully sooner than later, but I don't know what sooner means at this point.
And is there any additional thought to, along the lines of those types of meetings, when we can start having face-to-face meetings again? And if we were to, you know, you still may not be able to allow a lot of public into the meeting unless they were invited to. The idea of maybe having face-to-face meetings that are streamed where people could still monitor and possibly participate during those meetings?
So listen, my thought is as soon as, you know, generally speaking, to be honest with you, we could probably meet as a board of selectmen without a great deal of participants and be within the guidelines. But with that said, if perchance a large group wanted to attend for some reason and we couldn't permit that, then our meeting would essentially be null and void and it would create an issue.
Oh, no, that's why I'm saying you would still meet, we could meet in person, but, you know, rather than having individual computer cameras, you'd have maybe a wide shot of the council talking, or, you know, whatever panel talking, and then people have the ability to stream in, whether it be audio, video, to ask questions or for public participation. Or
I suppose we could do that, Jeff. I'm going to move forward with an assumption that as we get into the next phase, not phase 2, but as we get into the next phase or a little further down the line, the governor is going to then begin to allow for a larger group. Okay. My thought, just mine personally is if he said to me 50 people could meet, we'd be on.
Yeah.
We'd be on. We would never exceed that. Now, maybe planning and zoning would continue to have some problems with that, with some of their items. You know, they may need to continue to say, you know, we got some hot button items here, and people are going to show up. They may need to continue to proceed with this format as opposed to an actual return to what was normal. Once we can return to what's normal, honestly, you know, nothing against you, Stacy, but I want to cut out that extra $100 every time every one of us has to meet.
Not
You
a
know,
problem.
and I don't think Stacy would mind too much, honestly, because when I last spoke with her, she's getting a little tired of this herself, but she's willing to continue to do it for us. And thank you for being that employee, Stacy.
So Ed, here's to my point though. If you take Lena Morton Gallery, okay, which I think is about 1,000 square feet, okay, and the total number of people allowed in that room based on the governor's criteria isn't 50. It's 28.3 square feet per person, which gives you about 33 1/3 persons in that room. So that's the biggest group you could have in there. Then you'd have to move it maybe into the Opera House. I'm allowed 122 people.
There you go.
For the room. So that's why I'm asking if we were to, you know, start having face-to-face meetings, is there a way to make a streaming content that the public can both view and participate in without having to actually be in the room if they don't want to, they choose not to, or we just can't accommodate as many people?
So the best way. I can
I'm gonna make a comment. Jeff, I
Please.
like your idea. I'd like to see us pursue that. These Zoom meetings, I don't know, my favorite, I'll tell you right now.
I love it. You don't even have to put pants on.
You never have them on anyway.
TMI.
So again, once we get to greater capacity, Jeff, I think, you make a good recommendation, certainly in the fact that we could, to utilize the Opera House, where we have a great deal of space and people can space out. The question as to the ability to provide it out otherwise, we don't have the town itself. Now, maybe you do at the Opera House, but the town itself does not have that capability to live stream anything without expanding our services that we currently have to do so.
Well,
To do it with, I don't know that we could even possibly do it with Zoom. I guess we could,
Yeah,
but then
you
that
can.
would certainly defeat savings.
No, you can, and actually, I mean, there's a couple of different options. We actually have a streaming switcher now that we just got for this pandemic, so that we can do things on the virtual platforms. So there are options, and some of them would be somewhat, if not very affordable. So if you want, I can
Okay,
look
well,
at a couple of things and make some recommendations.
well, certainly that'll be something we'll talk about by all means when we get an expansion. And I appreciate your essentially chiming in and offering Opera House
Here's the
facilities.
thing. I mean, we're talking about reopening. We're trying to get to the point where we're reopening, and I think 2 months ago we never imagined that we would still be having a virtual meeting right now, and so it may be another month before we get even a normal meeting. And how is that going to be allowed? And if there's a resurgence in any way, we're back to square one again. So if we
True.
maybe can come up with some plans on how to deal with it going forward.
Okay, so let's off the record, if you don't mind, you and I have some discussion about what could possibly be done with the Opera House and the technology that you have
Yep.
available already, and what potential cost there might be for the town regarding that. Okay,
Sounds good.
very
Yeah,
good.
as
Thank
long
you.
as
Thank you
let's
for the
start, Ed,
suggestions.
start
Yes.
talking now, though. Don't start talking months from now.
Yeah, no, we won't.
No. Listen, we can look. Jeff and I are in the same building. These discussions can take place at any time very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, item number 6, we have no board commission appointments resignations. I wasn't given any tax refunds, so we don't have any of those to deal with. Communications, I have none other than what we've already all talked about. Is there any public on who would like to speak? Do you see anybody, Stacy?
I do not.
Okay.
Motion we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion to adjourn, and a second, a motion by Roger, second by Jeff. All in favor is, I'm sure an aye, Edmond.
Bye, Roger.
Hi, Jeff.
Okay, adjournment at 6:09 PM. Thank you one and all. Jeff will speak soon.
Later. Thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you, Stacy.
No
Thank you.
problem. Bye-bye.
Later on, Chief.